So we continue in God's Word from 2 Kings, chapter 25, verses 1 through 7. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month of the 10th day of the month, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. They built siege works against it all around. So the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine became so severe in the city, there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city wall. The king with all the soldiers fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, by the king's garden, though the Chaldeans were all around the city. They went in the direction of the Arabah, but the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his army was scattered, deserting him. Then they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, who passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, then put out the eyes of Zedekiah. They bound him in fetters and took him to Babylon. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You can see why we give guides to read the Bible with kids and their parents after a reading like that. The criminal gang pulls off the heist. They're on the run, but quickly they hear the voices of the police in hot pursuit, the wailing of the sirens over the air. They turn down a dark alley in hopes of escape, but they run into a dead end. And so there, they realize they're not going to make it, so they throw all the loot into one bag. They hand it to the weakest member of the gang, and everybody scatters up the fire escapes and over the wall as he comes into the focus of the flashlight of the police, and he's left there holding the bag. That's the origin of that idiom, holding the bag. Another version goes like this. You might take an unsuspecting, rather naive fellow and invite him on a trip to catch a mythic creature out in the dark woods, a snipe, perhaps. He's out there with a flour sack in the middle of the darkness, trembling knees, waiting to catch this creature, which of course everybody else knows is never going to show up. So you leave him out there in the woods in the dark, holding the bag. King Zedekiah, born Mattaniah, was never supposed to be king of Judah. He was the third son of King Josiah. His older brother, Jehoahaz, had a short 3-month reign before the land of Judah was besieged by the Egyptians. King Necho of Egypt took him into exile in Egypt, and he put in place his younger brother Jehoiakim to become the new king of Judah. Judah now a vassal state of Egypt, paying tribute to the Pharaoh. But King Nebuchadnezzar soon came along and stormed in with the Babylonians. He took the land from the Egyptians. And Jehoiakim grew tired of always being a vassal state of another nation and having to pay tribute to all these foreign kings, so he led a rebellion. And it didn't go well. And Nebuchadnezzar captured him and took him in his care into Babylon. He dies there. His son Jehoiachin then reigns in Jerusalem for 3 months. He's young. Eventually Nebuchadnezzar besieges the city of Jerusalem. He takes Jehoiachin away into exile in Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar puts Mattaniah, who he now names Zedekiah, on the throne in the city. He's the uncle of Jehoiachin, the third son of Josiah, now the puppet ruler of Judah. He reigns for over a decade, but we don't really know how he is received. Is the loyalty of the people of Jerusalem still with Jehoiachin, the boy king who's in exile? If that's the case, then there's competing claimants to the throne in Judah. Or perhaps they understand Zedekiah to be an instrument, a vassal of his true king who lives in exile. We don't know. We do know. You don't want to be Zedekiah. The never should have been king, vassal, illegitimate leader. He has no shot. He tries to be like his father of old. He inquires of Jeremiah, what is it that the Lord wants him to do? And Jeremiah tells him, surrender to Babylon in the midst of the 2-year siege on the capital that has led all the people in Jerusalem to the brink of starvation. But Zedekiah knows that if he follows this advice, the people in the city will turn on him and see him as a leader who is weak, so he cannot cave. The truth is, we're 500 years after the establishment of the kingship with David. Decades of unfaithfulness and disobedience. The indulgence and the affluence of Solomon is long gone. It's been decades of decadence and injustice and the general malaise that now comes to a head. Leadership, military, politicians, artisans, workers, they've all been scattered and taken to Babylon, and here is Zedekiah bearing the judgment that comes on all the years of unfaithfulness before him and all of the unfaithfulness around him. He stands there like the scared kid with his knees knocking in the darkness of the woods, holding his gunny sack in hopes of catching the snipe, hoping for some magical interference that will end this trauma in which he lives. But the truth is, he's been left to hold the bag. He's been duped into thinking there's anything he can do to actually have agency to change the situation in front of him. You ever felt like you've been the one left to hold the bag? Maybe it was working for the company. You've been there for years, but things had changed. The management offices had been shipped to a larger city. The day labor jobs moved overseas. But they're going to keep a skeleton crew in town, and you've been in charge to manage that. But everybody knows where this is headed. So the employees you manage, they're late, they're lazy, they miss their deadlines. They blame you for all the trouble that they're in. You know there's not going to be any more money put into the organization. You're not getting any phone calls back from headquarters. And then, of course, the word comes. It's time to circle around the perimeter one more time, put the chain through the fence, click the padlock into place, and head on. You've been cut out of the story of this organization. Or maybe you want to have a dinner party. You've invited people over. The hors d'oeuvres are ready. The drinks are poured. The table's set. You've lit the candles, turned on the music. You've vacuumed the rugs. But all through the afternoon, you get text messages. Hey, sorry, got caught at work. Oh, we got a kid who's sick. We forgot we were double booked. We're not going to be able to make it. And then all of a sudden, you have this whole party planned, and you're ready to go, and there's no one to come. It gets even worse when later you see on your Instagram feed that some of those people who said they were tied up are actually out. Some of them are together. They found something better to do than be with you. And you were left holding the bag. Everybody in class is misbehaving. They're scooting tables around. They're jumping over desks. They're shouting and hollering. They're throwing paper airplanes around. But when the teacher barges in, you happen to be the one standing in your chair at the time. It's your name that's shouted out over the rest, and everybody else slumps into their desks, their heads cast down in shame, and you're the one who bears the wrath of the disappointed educator. You're left holding the bag. Or maybe it's a piece of land, beloved, held in the family for generations. You've only been there a few times, and your kids don't hardly know it. And you know that all the family that loved it so is dying away, and nobody wants to deal with what should happen next. And so eventually the day is going to come that the taxes are due. Somebody's got to deal with the mineral rights. Somebody's got to cut the timber. Somebody's got to pay the taxes. You know you're the one who's going to be left holding the bag. Now, Zedekiah is not innocent. Most of the time when we're left holding the bag, we do bear some of the guilt in bringing this about. We joined the heist crew. We went on the snipe hunt in the dark, in the woods. But at the same time, the options and choices we had didn't provide us much other opportunity than this kind of destructive end. Yes, you're guilty, but you didn't really have the opportunity to make a choice that led to anything but the pronouncement of your guilt. How often when we're caught in this kind of moment, We either want to exonerate ourselves, excuse ourselves from bearing any of the guilt at all. I wasn't part of that. Or we overly bear the weight of all the misdeeds that come before and bear it all upon ourselves. It's isolating. It's painful. We feel like we've let ourselves down, our company down, our friends down. We let our family down. And often the one who ends up holding the bag bears the blame, ends the story, shuts down the company, closes out the estate. Such is the case for King Zedekiah. The ones who continue the story of Israel in the Bibles that we gave our second graders today are the ones who are loyal to the deposed King Jehoiachin in exile in Babylon. King Zedekiah, taken from the throne, now childless and blinded, he is futureless. He's cut out of the story. He loses everything, even his name, Mattaniah. So the moral of the story seems to be, don't be Zedekiah. But the problem is, even Zedekiah didn't want to be Zedekiah. He was the third son. He was never supposed to be the king. He has no idea how to reign. His city is under siege by the Babylonians. His people are on the brink of starvation, but he knows they don't want to serve at the pleasure of another kingdom for more years to come. And he goes to counsel Jeremiah and asks for a word from the Lord, and the word is, just give it up, Zedekiah. The game's over. We're just running out the clock. History's littered with Zedekiah. People who get written out of the story. Happens in families, happens in our own lives. You get caught holding the bag. And sometimes that's us. We're written off, forgotten, sloughed off to the side. In the stories of the great men and women, we're not. We've been caught in the hopeless act. Please exit stage right so that the story can continue without you. But then I think about my friend, Preston Tyler. He's preaching today, right now, at the Hill Street Baptist Church in Roanoke. And on Sundays at Hill Street Baptist, when Reverend Tyler stands in front of the church, he says, "Welcome to Hill Street, the place where everybody is somebody." That's a long tradition, especially in the black church with a history of remembering Jim Crow. People who had to live in their daily life as though they were nobody, grown men who were called boy, ignored by the culture and the community in which they lived, told where you were and were not allowed to go. But on Sunday, when you came to church and you stood before your God, there you were told you were not a nobody. You were somebody. Where do they get such an idea? Well, in his first sermon, Jesus read from the prophet Isaiah. And he says, "I've come to declare release to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free." Jesus went to dinner and ate with tax collectors, dishonest managers who robbed from their own people in Judea to supply the money for the Roman Empire, and the men who were then left by the Roman Empire standing there holding the bag. Jesus healed on the Sabbath, and he raised Gentiles from the dead, these outsiders, these unworthy, ignorant folk. And when he was crucified, Jesus mounted the cross between two thieves. I wonder how they got caught. Surely they weren't the only ones in the gang who were holding up houses in Jerusalem. Maybe they were just the guys left holding the bag. Now, one of those thieves claims his identity. He knows who he is, and he doesn't recant. He tells Jesus to use divine power right now to get him down off this cross. But the other thief, he knows what it is to be forgotten, to be sloughed off, to be written out of the story. He knows who he is as the one caught holding the bag. You know what Jesus tells him? Today, you will be with me in paradise, where everybody is somebody. So I know today, if Zedekiah was to walk into the narthex at Hill Street Baptist Church, he'd be greeted by a warm and friendly usher, and the deposed king, the one phony, blinded, would be guided into a pew. Because there, everybody is somebody. And I pray to a holy God who has revealed to us in Jesus that no one is to be sloughed off. If Zedekiah walked in our doors, he wouldn't just find a security-trained usher to pull him aside and question him in the gathering here. That he wouldn't be confronted by someone holding out a bulletin but offering no word of welcome. He doesn't need a bulletin, by the way, he can't see. Might he find someone with enough other-focused energy and attention who might take him by the hand, who might lead him shuffling up the aisle, making sure he didn't trip on his way forward. As he walked, his mouth hanging open, his breath heavy, his head lowered in shame and guilt and sorrow, I hope someone would lead him right up to the front row. And when the time in the service came to sign the friendship pad, he'd turn to you and he'd say, "Can you write my name for me? Just put Zedekiah." And you'd say, "Wait a second. That's not really your name, right?" "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, that's not the name your father Josiah gave you." "Well, it's been so long. I tell you, I can't even remember what it was." "Your name is Mattaniah." "Oh, Mattaniah. Yes. Do you know what Mattaniah means?" "Indeed. It means gift of God."